Welcome, everyone. It's great to have 14 of you here. This is the first time we've tried this flipped model where you were sent a link with a recorded session ahead of time so we could spend our time together answering the questions that you have. Please, if you've got questions already, start typing them into the chat box, but otherwise we'll go through a few things. So I'm Irene Harold. I'm your ACRL President-elect, and after annual conference, I become the President. I'm excited about my presidential year, and I'll speak a little bit about some of the things that are happening, but I welcome you all, and aloha, and it's the morning here in Hawaii. So if we can go to the next. We have three wonderful ACRL staff with us this morning. Elois, whom you've met, who's been taking care of us on the tech side. But we also have Megan Griffin, who's the ACRL Program Officer. Megan, do you want to say hi?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today.
And we have Chase Olive, who is the ACRL Program Coordinator and the liaison to this group, the Discussion and Interest Group. So Chase, give them your hello.
Hi, everybody. You've probably heard from me before, so it's great to finally get to see you all in one room. Thanks.
So again, the purpose of this is to give you some highlights and reminders and to answer questions. So you are all invited to join us at Leadership Council, and it's now a Leadership Council and membership meeting, which will be held on Friday at conference in the Hyatt Regency. So the ACRL Hotel is the Hilton, but this meeting is at the Hyatt, and it's from 1 to 3 o'clock, so I hope you'll be able to attend. You would be seated with, hopefully most of you get to be seated with a liaison to meet your staff members who support you and to participate in the work that of the board in terms of things that we need feedback on or we're interested in your perspective, or to help inform you about upcoming events and issues that you might want to take back to your discussion and interest group. And then that's followed by a welcome reception where you get to network, so you can stand up, you're not stuck at a table, and you can speak with the different leaders. And we all would encourage you to come and to introduce yourself to us, because we don't know everybody, but we'd love to meet you. It's on Friday, I believe is that June, I don't know what day in June that is, but it's the Friday of the ALA conference, June 24th. Thank you, Chase. I don't have my calendar in front of me, so I was fumbling there. And I know that I'm getting to Florida a little bit earlier. So please come join us. It's an opportunity. We will be talking about the new fourth goal area and its launch. We'll be talking about the ACRL conference in Baltimore. I'm so excited. And we'll be discussing some of the other opportunities and events for friend and fundraising, for scholarships. Some of you who have been around a little bit more are familiar with what we did for the conference in Portland, and we'll be starting that process again. So lots of information, lots of things to cover, and many of opportunities to network and to become further engaged. So what questions do you have for us leading your membership group during the upcoming year? So we kind of brainstormed a few that were typical. Do I need to attend conference in person? The answer to that, I believe, is no, because we offer the opportunity for virtual meetings. Chase, would you like to expand on that at all?
Sure, you are correct. You do not need to meet in person. We just really hope that you meet once a year, and that can be virtually. And ACRL does offer 2 virtual meeting platforms for you to meet. So we have an Adobe Connect platform, which can host up to 100 people, or I guess 99 people plus the host. And then WebEx for larger events can host up to 999 people. So that's for your bigger forums that you think you're going to have. But we welcome you to schedule those meetings throughout the year, except around conference time, and it's really only from Monday through Friday during working hours, because we do have to have ACRL staff to be there to host the meeting for you. But otherwise, you can get in touch with Elois, and she can schedule the meeting for you.
And that is a nice segue into the next question. Is there support for blended meetings? So I know Elois has lots of information about how that would work if you wanted to do a blended meeting where you were at conference and some people were face-to-face and some were virtual.
There is limited support for blended meetings, but you can have a blended meeting through a Skype kit. We do recommend that if you desire to have a blended meeting, that you request your AV when you are requesting your actual meeting. We don't recommend that you have all of your meetings blended because it can get costly. But definitely you do have that option.
And something that we've done on the board is that we've had members who have used Skype or FaceTime, or we've just done freeconferencecall.com to make sure that people are there when they can't all be physically present. So if it's not a ton of people, that might be an option too.
And I would like to chime in on one more thing there. Because discussion groups don't have a budget and interest groups have a small one that would not cover the full Skype kit, if you did want this, you would need to request it prior to ALA's cutoff because there is no budget to request one after the fact. So just keep that in mind.
Good point. I think also that something Chase said about having at least one meeting a year, we do encourage members to stay active and to remember we are not just a conference-to-conference association, that activities are ongoing, work is ongoing. And so if you have an opportunity to have a hot topic come up that touches to your discussion or interest group area, we encourage you not to just wait for times around conferences, but to continue to have that engagement with your members. Some of you have very large membership groups, and so that gives you an opportunity to even parse out and have subtopics. So I think that's an exciting part of the flexibility and nimbleness that the interest groups and discussion groups present. Notes. What should be included in meeting notes? Is that Chase or Megan?
I can jump in on that. So meeting notes do not have to include everything that everyone said. It's really just, you know, what actions were taken, what decisions were made, just sort of the general basis of what happened in your meeting. It doesn't have to be a full record of everything everyone said, so no need to take very detailed minutes. It's just, you know, a general overview of what happened and what decisions were made. And those do need to be posted publicly to your ALA Connect space, and every discussion and interest group does have one of those. And if you do not know the link to yours, get in touch with me and I will happily put you where you need to be. Thanks.
And scheduling a virtual meeting, is that with Elois?
Yes, you can schedule a virtual meeting with me, and I typed in my email address previously, but I will do that again for your convenience. And as Chase stated, we do have two different platforms, WebEx, which has a capacity for 999 participants, and Adobe Connect up to 99. Around annual meeting time and midwinter, we ask that you try to get your requests in to us as soon as possible, because that's when our virtual meeting requests a peak. We have that's our peak time, and we have a lot of virtual meeting requests during those particular seasons. So the earlier you know about your meeting, the better it is to get that information in. And Chase put in the link that you can go on the website and obtain information about that, as well as the meeting request form, or you can send that information to me directly, and I put my email address in the chat box.
Great. I'm actually not seeing your email address yet in the chat box, but it's probably coming. Maybe Hawaii has a slower connection. There it goes. So the last question that we kind of preceded, so I'm hoping you are thinking of what your questions are and are getting ready to chat, type them into the chat box, is how should the membership group best use ALA Connect? So one of the lovely things about ALA Connect is it provides an opportunity to place files in history, because sometimes with the discussion and interest groups, if you only meet virtually, you may not know each other face-to-face to be able to pass on to whoever's going to be the next coordinator or convener of your group. So the Connect site allows that history to be captured. It allows previous topics to be noted, keeping your history there, and methods for distribution of information to the discussion or interest group. And Megan or Chase, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I think that's great. You know, use your ALA Connect space just to give the most recent updates about your interest group, start discussions, advertise your meetings at annual conferences in midwinter. That's a lot of it, and putting your meeting notes, of course, into your Connect space.
So one question that might be helpful is if the attendees who have previously been leading the interest or discussion group would just click on the little hand icon so we can see how many of you actually are old hands at this, so to speak, versus those that have not done this before. So if you wouldn't mind and just click, I see Rich and Laura, I'm having Sarah. So 3 of the 18 of you. I'm wondering if there's any, and Lisa, there we go, 4, 5. So if any of you that have had this experience before, any advice that you would like to share that you think might be helpful, since this is a large group of people that are doing this for the first time? Just type it in. I think it's important to know that you're invited to Leadership Council and the networking at both midwinter and annual, and it's always the Friday afternoon before the start of the opening of the exhibits and the opening session. So if you're making travel plans to attend in person, and who wouldn't want to go to Atlanta and Chicago next year, then that gives you an opportunity to make your connections that way. Good advice from Sarah, use ALA Connect, pay attention to deadlines, and yes, Chase and the rest of the ACRL staff are amazing and there to help you. Good point. We are so fortunate. Now that I have a broader ALA division perspective, I know 10 times over how fortunate we are with our ACRL staff. Amazing support and help. I can't give you all enough praise. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah. Other?
I was going to say thank you so much for saying that, Irene. That's very kind of you. Yeah, if we'd like to open up the floor for questions, if you have any, and we scheduled an hour for this session, but don't think that we need to stay for the whole time. If you don't have any questions beyond, you know, the ones that you already have, then we are able to end the meeting early. So just, but we're happy to take questions now, whatever you have. Thanks.
So while I'm waiting to see if anyone types them, let me just mention that Ann Campion-Riley's President's Program at Orlando is on data. It should be very interesting. And then for next year, for the ALA Midwinter, my program committee is proposing a discussion forum. Well, they'll be focusing on loosely the new fourth goal area about new roles and changing landscape. The President's Program, is that on Saturday afternoon, or I believe, or Sunday? Saturday at 10:30 in the morning. I knew because I have got board meeting in the afternoon. Oh, good question, Maureen. Are there guidelines for interest groups regarding voting and leadership? Chase?
Sure, Maureen. Really, it is completely up to your group how you would like to vote for your next incoming convener, and this goes for discussion groups as well. So it's a really informal process. There's no, official appointing process that's delegated by an executive committee or anything. Really, if you know someone who is interested, you are welcome to just offer them the position and get them in touch with me so I can appoint them. If your group would like more of a formal process, you are welcome to open it to a vote at your virtual meeting or your in-person meeting, or just through your listserv. It is completely up to you, and you're welcome to post that question, like how other groups do it, to the interest group leaders discussion forum. There's a listserv for that, and you can see how other groups do it if you would like to, take advice. Otherwise, just however you see fit.
One of the nice things about interest groups and discussion groups is that you don't even have the bylaws, and so they don't need board vote for changes. You can govern yourself, and we trust you to do that in the best way possible. Great questions coming in now. So Maris is asking if we want to have a joint program with another interest group, what's the best way to coordinate it? That listserv that was just put out, I think you post, here's the topic we're thinking about. Are there other groups that would like to have a joint program, and get the conversation going that way?
Just to step in on the at ACRL in Baltimore, so ACRL conferences are all professional development and aren't generally, isn't suited for membership meetings for the most part. It's really just professional development sessions, so all of that is peer reviewed. So if that's what you're referring to, Glinda, then it's not really the same kind of situation that is ALA annual and midwinter conferences, if that helps.
Oh, I guess I'm not seeing that question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that was a little further up. So I was still catching up a little bit.
Thank you. I'm glad you caught that. So I was just going to mention, though, that in ACRL in Baltimore, so the ALA Midwinter, which will be, yes, I see the informal meetup. Absolutely, you can do birds of a feather, you can do meals together, you can do all kinds of things at the ACRL conference. So at Midwinter, I have a panel that's going to be doing a discussion forum loosely related to the new goal area, new roles and changing landscape. And they'll be talking about how leadership can help leaders in the library profession, wherever you are, can help with meeting the needs of changing landscape. And then at Baltimore, we've proposed, but we have to do the same process as everybody else that proposes a panel or a paper or whatever. It's blind peer review, so it may or may not get accepted. But we're proposing a session where a panel will talk about leadership challenges and how resonant leadership as an approach to leadership can help with those in an analysis of those challenges and solutions. And then for ALA Annual in Chicago, we have proposed a joint program with the Public Library Association, and we're looking for a major speaker who will be presenting around leadership types of approaches. We're hoping focusing on frame flipping, how you can come up with an appropriate way to approach a leadership challenge. So if you can't tell, leadership is kind of my personal theme, but it resonates with the Plan for Excellence new goal area. All right, so I see that there's some talk about guidelines for interest groups, communities of practice, some valuable links that Chase is giving all of you. What are your other questions? Got the date, time. Just trying to make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay, deadline for naming an incoming chair for an interest group, Chase?
Sure. So I would really appreciate if you had all of that finalized as soon after annual conference as possible. We do appointments through terms of July 1st through June 30th. So if you can have someone decided on before the July 1st date, that would be very helpful. The sooner the better. So I've already sent out a call for who will take over next. So if you already have someone in mind, please send their information my way.
And Chase, was there a deadline when their notes need to be received? Is it 10 days after the meeting, or was it a different time?
I believe it's 2 weeks after the meeting, and agendas are posted 2 weeks before, and meeting notes are posted within 1 month after. Megan can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe that is the timeline.
Yes, that's exactly right. Agendas are 10 days or 2 weeks out of the meeting, and then afterwards, after the meeting, you have about 30 days to finish up your meeting notes.
And because we have an open meeting policy for ACRL ALA, it's important that you do that you do distribute the agendas ahead of time, at the minimum the 2 weeks out, and post the notes afterwards. And yeah, as Chase says, Maureen, yes, you can put a call out during the meeting if you need to, or for interested parties to be conveners or co-conveners. All right, I want to make sure that we're not cutting anyone off. Are there other things that are on your mind that you're thinking, oh wow, I didn't even think about that, but what do we do?
Okay, so we have the difference between an interest group and a discussion group from Kara. There's a few differences, and I posted a link just above your question, actually, that has the COPA group breakdown, and that does lay out a lot of differences in terms of the funding that goes into each, or how they're created, or how they're continued and maintained, what their membership is, like how their rosters are maintained, etc. So I would encourage you to take a look at that, Kara, and you'll get a really good idea about the differences between the two. Discussion groups are required to meet every year and do not receive funding. Interest groups do receive a little bit of funding, about $150 every year.
I want to answer Maureen's question, but I think Stevens is probably faster. He's asking, do you post the meeting notes to the Connect page or send them to Chase? I believe you post them to the Connect page.
Yeah, please actually post them to the Connect space and send them to me as well so that we can have them for our official files in the office.
So Maureen's question about thinking about moving to a section and when do we start that process? Actually, anytime your membership has been over 400 consistently for 3 years or so, you can start that process. And Megan, do you have the details on that since you're the section liaison?
I'm sure. The official policy is actually an interest group has to be in existence for 6 years. So after the first 3 years, you'll submit your renewal action form to the board to request to continue. And then after that first renewal, you wait 3 more years, and if your membership is above 400, you can petition to become an ACRL section. So we're actually diving into that for the first time this year. We have a few sections becoming interest groups, and we have a few potential interest groups to become sections. So Chase is definitely your first contact for all of that, and he'll help you through the process. But after that 6-year point, you would work with him to submit the petition and also to submit the board action item, and then you go from there.
Yeah, and I was just going to mention that there's an action form that goes with it. That's what the board sees, that includes the information that helps us to understand that you are ready and to engage in being a section. There's a little bit more governance involved in being a section. You have to hold formal elections. You have to fill the slate. You need to have a membership committee. So you'll want to look at all of those requirements for being a section to make sure that your group desires that and feels they will benefit from it. Well, can you use the $150 for social things, not alcohol? So that's a good question. You mean like for appetizers? I'm guessing.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I answered that a little bit above. Funding can be used for catering at events, for social events, for printing out marketing materials, or for other expenses. They really just cannot be used for anything that violates ALA policy, such as funding librarian travel. You know,
Campaign.
yeah, it's pretty open, and you can always feel free to check with me about a specific expense before you actually purchase it, so that you know well ahead of time if you can use your funds for that.
And some sections have chosen to use part of their basic funding allocation in support of scholarships. So there's lots of different things you can do with it.
Yep. And yes, Maureen. Oh, I was going to say, sorry. Yes, Maureen, that is totally fine to reserve a space for a social event with your funds.
And yeah. So the question about negative experiences in moving to a section, actually, I believe this year will be the first time that, since the new policies have been in place, that an interest or a discussion group is moving to a section in my recollection. So I've been a ACRL board member and now president for 5 years. So I don't know. Megan?
Hi. Yeah. So that's a good question. Essentially, becoming a section and maintaining the work of a section is a lot of work. And Irene, you're correct. We haven't had a new section since probably, you know, the late 80s or early 90s. So this is all new as far as the transition policy goes. But as you mentioned earlier, sections are required every year to do a lot of administrative work. The folks on the executive committee have to. So you've got to produce slates of candidates for elections. You've got to make appointments to committees. You've got to manage finances. There's a lot of different things that have to happen. So it's definitely far more structured than the interest group environment or the discussion group environment. And if any interest groups are considering this that haven't spoken to Chase yet, please do get in touch with him so that he can talk to you, and I'm happy to speak with you as well, just to kind of go over anything and any questions that you have about it, because it's a more complicated structure.
There are benefits to being a section, but one that I think is a myth is it's a blind, peer-reviewed process for programming at midwinter and annual. ACRL only has a limited number of slots, so it does not increase your chances of your program being accepted if you're a section versus not a section. I think that's a myth. All right. You're getting some really valuable information here and good questions. Thank you so much. You know, in case we lose anybody else, because I know Stephen had to sign off, I do want to say how much we as an association value your service. We are a volunteer association. All of us are volunteers that are on the board, that are conveners and facilitators of interest in discussion groups. And we are amazing as an association, but due to you and your service. So thank you so much for your time and dedication, for your interest in helping this association be valuable and useful to our members. We really appreciate that. Any other questions or things that we can help clarify mysteries?
And again, if there are no more questions now and something comes to you later, you are completely welcome to get in touch with me or Megan. I will put my email again into the chat box, and you are welcome to ask me anything that comes to your mind, and I am here to help. But it looks like we are good to go, and I think everyone has had their questions answered. So I'm glad you all came. Thanks so much.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure to chat with all of you, and I look forward to meeting many of you at conference.
Yes, and thank you very much for being here, Irene. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Oh, and last but not least, if you could take the time to please complete this survey, it would really help us out to see if you enjoyed this session.
And the flip format, yep. And you'll be emailing that to them also, won't you?
Correct.
Yep. Thank you, Bonnie. I'm excited to work with you too. Actually, I'm excited to work with everybody. It's going to be a great year. All right, I think that's a wrap.
Okay, thank you everyone again, and thank you, Irene.
Aloha.
Aloha.